over. Damn, that sucks. I thought I started a new. Oh, those are mod action. Also, I have new chat alerts. There we go. I was wondering if they were gonna work or not because they weren't working all. But here's some music while I try to fix this.
Power on. Face boost.
I got it. I think I got it.
So why use Grammarly over ChatGPT? Well, Grammarly offers expert writing suggestions.
I forgot I'm reading.
Perfect. Where's my clock? E404 button. Shoot some beat.
Oh, way down south in the land of traders, rattlesnakes and alligators. Right away, come away, right away, come away. Where cotton's king and men are chattels, Union boys will win the battles. Right away, come away, right away, come away. We'll all go down to Dixie, away, away. Each Dixie boy must understand that he must find his Uncle Sam. Away, away, we'll all go down to Dixie. Away, away, we'll all go down to Dixie. Way down south in the land of traders, rattlesnakes and alligators. Right away, come away, right away, come away. Where cotton's king and men are chattels, Union boys will win the battles. Right away, come away, right away, come away. We'll all go down to Dixie, away, away. Each Dixie boy must understand that he must find his Uncle Sam. Away, away, we'll all go down to Dixie. Away, away, we'll all go down to Dixie.
I think I got it fixed. Anyway, hi everybody, it's me, Charlie.
Step into Wix Studio.
And today I actually
web
have a queue
platform
of
for
stuff
agencies and
because I did
enterprises.
work before stream started today. I did queue up some stuff. It is a few hours older than like right now. So if I have to like out stuff or if stuff needs to be corrected along the way, please me too. We also have a daily sub goal of one new sub. And new channel for so there's some good ones in here that I added that I think you guys will enjoy. We also reached 79% of our Fortnite goal. Let's go. Oh, okay, so I added a TTS. You get one per stream. Everybody gets one per stream. Do it wisely. And it's 1,000 points. Anyway, I might do that more. I don't know. Wait. Anyway, so playing right now. It's so loud. I did get a tornado warning for tonight. Oh, I didn't get a tornado warning. North Jersey got a tornado warning, and therefore it popped up into my. That being said, I'm going to be mindful about that. I also started early today because I'm going to get off early. I gotta wrap up just around 8 o'clock, preferably before me. Other than that, it's been kind of chill. Had a psychology appointment, got the paperwork for my son's early intervention. I don't know, I thought I streamed yesterday, I'm gonna be honest. I was like, oh, I streamed, nice. And then I was like, oh, wait, today's Tuesday. I'm off. But the reason I was remembering that it was Tuesday was that I was like, we haven't done True Social Tuesday in a while. Now, for those who don't know, True Social Tuesday is when I go to Trump's True Social account and I just scroll through it. Oh! Does that not happen anymore? Oh my god. Oh my god, you have to have an account. That's a first. Wow. They must be strapped for cash. Oh my god. Does anybody else know that? So I have a queue. The first things I kind of want to go over, if I can get to it and see. Alright, so a few things I want to go over. The first will be, I think I want to go through this stuff, because that's the most important thing. So I want to cover. We'll get back to J. Aubrey's Epstein video and the Epstein stuff a little bit later. There's also a couple of other like events going on in and around the world, well, in America, because of the weather, the climate change. So there's a lot of this topic I want to talk about today. All right, I gotta do this by 8. Sorry, this to this. Can't believe you have to pay to see Trump's tweets now. Oh, that's so annoying. The hell? Okay, this, I'm gonna move that over to, oh, it's already in the YouTube videos. Okay. 3 hours ago. 5 hours. 2 hours, 2 hours. 4 hours. Alright, we're just gonna go through this real fast, and if I see anything new updated, or if you guys know anything updated, please let me know.
Do you know what's really fun? Making a website on Wix.
Hour, look at this. This is just coming into us. Some of these videos here. This one shot by a person named Charlie Rivers. Look at that. The water rushing past buildings and homes. You can see some of the debris there as well. Let me get right to Bill Cairns. You hate to see this, Bill, as we are coming off of, the fourth.
That water's moving so fast. 1, how are these houses still there? 2, oh my god. What's updated? Yeah, more states with crazy flooding. Yeah, New Mexico, and also California is not getting its aid for its forest fires. So there's that, and then there's a New Jersey's got tornado warnings. Like, that's so fast. These people are in their house.
Now, 5th day of that flash flooding in Texas.
I don't know if they got any warning. That's something we're going to talk about a little today, is if any of these people got warning, or what the other officials are talking about and things like that. Also, hi Dorothy.
This is not, first of all, it's daytime. It doesn't look as bad, but help us understand the risk here.
All right, so we're in New Mexico. We're in the mountains. This is near the Lincoln National Forest. And when I first saw this video, I was like, oh, this is old. This is last year. I believe it's almost from the same vantage point, the same person.
Wow.
They had a flash flood last year that was very similar to this. I was just on their Facebook group for the community there, and they're saying that this year was worse than last year. There was a fire upriver of this, and a thunderstorm, you know, the fires take away all the vegetation, so when it pours and rains, you get these fast-moving debris flows. I did see a video from a different angle. We'll try to get that cleared and show it to you later, of a house actually that got caught in that flood water, went down, taking out trees. The house was getting destroyed. So I know at least of one home that just doesn't even exist anymore because it got caught in this flow going down.
I saw a red house going down something like this and just smashing into things as it went. I really hope there was no one in those houses.
Down the mountain. There is a river gauge further downstream that went from 2 feet to 15.
Is this even a river, or is this just a slip?
Feet in about 90
I guess it's
minutes.
Charlie River, so I guess it
really
is a river.
rapid rise on a small river in a pretty rural portion here.
Okay, so it is a river.
Hallie, we have other stuff that's going on too. I got to get to. We've had tornado warnings that have been in place outside the Philadelphia area. So this is that flash flood emergency which continues for the video you just saw there. Let me take you to the East Coast because these thunderstorms are just plowing through Philly right now. There'll be people losing power. The tornado warning has been dropped, but from Trenton, capital New Jersey, right along to Delaware here. This is the area that we're watching. 60
That's us.
to 70 mile per hour winds. People are going to be losing power. Further to the south, we just had a
Yeah, this is what I got the warning like this morning for Monmouth, Ocean, and Bell. Something else north that starts with a B. Counties are in tornado warnings right now and have been since like 8 a.m. This is what's getting ready to come through now. It's going to come right this way.
77 mile per hour wind gust reported just outside of Baltimore.
This is as of 20 hours ago, by the way.
Areas of Maryland. That is now crossed into from Maryland towards Delaware here. But this line is considered a destructive threat right through Chestertown. Again, gusts up to about 80 miles per hour. And Hallie, I don't even want to show you the airport delays. There's ground stops at Dulles, Reagan, Baltimore. All the New York airports are about 120 minutes right now.
Just got dark as night here outside of our D.C. studio. I mean, just to give you a sense of that. Are there any?
All right.
Quality at unbeatable prices? Yes, chef.
Horse duvers?
It's an Aldi thing.
Now, earlier today, I spoke to a woman who was camping with her family just 1 mile away from the deadly Guadalupe River floods when they found themselves in the path of disaster. Lucretia Bates said she noticed the river
I have a former friend that lives in Texas, and I knew their daughter did like summer camps and stuff, so I reached out to make sure that they were okay, and they are. So I'm pretty glad about that, but this is still really hard.
And decided to evacuate despite no alerts or warnings.
There were other people still trying to go tubing down the river that morning as we were packing up, and it was pouring.
Even though the river had risen that much and people were being told, you know what, it might be time to go, there were others that were getting in tubes to ride the river down.
Yes. And I just couldn't believe it. And so, I just thought to myself, and I began to kind of look up, what had happened. And that's when I found out that, it was very catastrophic. As we were checking out, my husband told the office, like, hey, we're checking out. We were supposed to stay an extra night. He said, we're gonna go. And so she said, okay, we're thinking about evacuating. I was just kind of like, wow. But, by the time we got to the gas station to gas up, we heard the sirens go off.
Damn. That makes me worried that unfortunately there's going to be like a Final Destination style curse.
This morning in the grief-stricken Texas Hill Country.
I don't wish that upon anybody.
Hope of finding survivors from Friday's devastating flooding is fading. Yet despite the odds, volunteers like Huntley Dantzler refusing to give up.
Biggest thing we're looking for is we're looking for places where there has not been foot traffic.
These before and after satellite images, providing a glimpse at the enormous scope and scale of the historic disaster. Local officials facing questions about why so many were caught off guard by the fast.
Did you see that? That back.
Biggest thing we're looking for is we're looking for places where there has not been foot traffic.
This
is the
before and after satellite images.
This is the after. God. That almost looks like when it was coming.
Images, providing a glimpse
Or,
at the enormous scope.
oh, that's the river over here. After.
Not been foot traffic.
These before and after satellite images.
Those houses, all those houses are gone. Everything.
Looking for is we're looking for places where there has not been foot traffic.
These before.
There's house here, house here. There's things right. A couple of things over. A couple more houses over.
Before and after satellite images.
All of this is gone. Almost all is gone. This is complete. Everything right. Some of the trees are missing. Wow.
Images, providing a glimpse at the enormous scope and scale of the historic disaster. Local officials facing questions about why so many were caught off guard by the fast-rising floodwaters.
Was the emergency manager awake at the time? Did they push the button to issue an emergency alert?
Sir, it's not that easy when you just push a button.
Did it happen, sir?
I can't tell you at this time.
Governor Abbott stressing the state was prepared.
Who's to blame? Know this. That's the word choice of losers. Let me explain one thing about Texas. And that is, Texas, every square inch of our state, cares about football. The losing teams are the ones that try to point out who's to blame. The way winners talk is not to point fingers.
It comes as records obtained by NBC News shows that Camp Mystic had an emergency plan in place. Texas officials signing off on it just 2 days before the floods.
Oh,
Meanwhile,
no. Oh, are you kidding me?
we're learning more about the victims, including 9-year-old Lainey Landry, a Camp Mystic attendee. Her family's church posting a photo from Lainey's first communion. This photo showing one of the cabins full of girls that was overwhelmed. Several of the children now confirmed dead. Some young survivors sharing their stories, like 10-year-old Lucy Kennedy.
I woke up to really loud thunder. I just had a gut feeling that something bad was about to happen.
Lucy, a Mystic camper just like her mother Wynn, recounting the traumatic experience from Friday morning.
People from different cabins started coming to our porch and yelling wake up and go to rec hall because there's a flood.
Evacuated by helicopter, the 10-year-old soon looked down on a summer paradise turned Texas tragedy.
So much grief and trauma here. I did ask young Lucy, Willie, would she feel comfortable going back to camp at any point? She says right now she's still unsure, and unfortunately, that number of missing could still grow. Authorities are encouraging anyone who had family members staying along the river that they fear may have been caught up in the storm to report them to authorities, because keep in mind, there are miles upon miles of river here with campsites, with RV sites. Not everyone may have been registered, leaving these search efforts continuing here. Willie.
On a busy holiday weekend, too, probably very crowded along the banks of that river. Morgan Chesky in Kerrville, Texas. Morgan, thank you.
Hey, thanks.
Oof.
Joining us now, NBC News senior national correspondent Jay Gray.
Just awful, but also this looks the same spot the other guy was standing at.
Live this morning from Kerrville, Texas. Jay, what's the latest today?
Well, Mika, I think we need to have some perspective here. You know, we'd been told dozens were missing for days. The numbers were, and I'm quoting here from officials, a lot. I don't think anyone expected to hear the governor reveal that there are more than 160 missing just here in Kirk County alone, over 170 across the 6 counties affected by this flooding. It's been a gut punch for this community, which is already reeling, by the way. We're along the Guadalupe River. You can see some of the debris here. This is the kind of thing that these first response teams are going through now and trying to locate those missing. Some of the larger pieces of debris, like these huge trees that were just toppled and snapped, they're going through that. They're urging people, if you have something like this on your property, if you have damage to your home, don't clear it out. Let us come through and make sure that there's no one trapped underneath all of this, and make sure that there are not missing people somewhere there. We've had stories already of people who have been swept away for 15, even 20 miles. And so there's a huge area to cover, and that's the next step in all of this as they begin day 6 of the search and recovery here. Getting into some of those areas they've yet to get into, using some high-profile military vehicles to do just that. And I've talked to a couple of the response team members last night, one who said point blank, Mika, we're not surprised at this number. We've seen the devastation firsthand, and we're not surprised that over 160 are missing in Kirk County. I talked to one man from the Cajun Army who told me he thinks that number is going to climb.
So, Jay, I'm curious. I know hindsight's 2020, but for those living near the Guadalupe River, and we have camps and campers, and also people who are camping, and people who live there, are questions beginning to arise about the warning system that was not there for them? Because this is an area where, for camps, for children, they choose not to have cell phones. And for people who live near the river, often cell phone service is spotty at best.
Yeah, no, I think you make a great point, Mika, and absolutely there is concern about that. You know, there's been this back and forth for years with council members here, with the local government, about funding some warning sirens and getting a proper warning system in place. The state has at times said, we'll give you a percentage of what it will cost, but we're not going to pay for the whole thing. And so they've just passed. I mean, I think it's important to reference the city of Comfort, which is not far from here and dealt with the same type of flooding. Lost no one, and they do have warning sirens there. We've heard from the governor. We've heard from the lieutenant governor. They do have a special...
This is the thing. The governor is like trying to say like, oh, if you want to ask why this happened, you're a loser, right? And that's, you know, some people will buy into that. You know, just like if you're like, oh, you like slavery, you like owning another man, that's gay. Like, and they'd be like, oh my God, that is gay. Like... but like these early warning signs could have, or early warning detectors could have been put in place at any point. But the problem was, from what we're hearing and what's been reported, is that the early warning systems and the things that were put in place were, or to be put in place, were being held up by how much they cost. Now, meanwhile, if we are going to remember some of the things that have happened in Texas since 2020, Greg Abbott dumped a bunch of razor wire and like other things in the Rio Grande to stop people from swimming across it. And so they'd rather do that than put things in place that would help their citizens stay alive. And then they will sit there and turn around and go, don't question me. You're a loser if you question me. If you follow, like, if you believe that line of bullshit, you are a weak-ass, spineless human being. You literally have less thought process than an amoeba. Please seek help.
Session. They say that they are going to pay now. The state is going to pay for some type of warning system that includes sirens. They have what is about a $30 billion at last count rainy day fund, they called it. So they're going to pull that money from there and do that. But a lot of people here want to know, living in such peril, knowing that they are in flash flood alley, as it's called, why hasn't this happened before? How did we get to this point?
NBC News senior national correspondent Jay Gray reporting live this morning from
Those are all
Kerrville,
fair
Texas,
questions.
once again. Thank you very much.
And Jay brings up a great point. I mean, you have these rainy day funds for a reason, and when you have local governments unable to fund this.
Yeah.
When you're in flash flood alley, you need the state to step in. If the state can't afford to step in, then the federal government needs to step in to protect the people of Texas and to protect other people across the country. In this case, they just didn't do it. They were sitting on a fat rainy day fund, and unfortunately, the literal rains came, and a lot of people are dead now because they didn't have adequate warning systems in that they should have had in.
And some of that is expressed in the editorial board of the San Antonio Express-News, which is out with a new piece entitled "Texas Officials Need to Stop Scapegoating the National Weather Service." It reads in part this: numerous meteorologists have said the National Weather Service, despite troubling and short-sighted federal cuts, did its job, noting that forecasts were as accurate as could be expected and that the warnings were timely. But one does not have to be a meteorologist or atmospheric science expert to understand that forecasts are estimates, general guides, really about the possibility of weather. No one should expect to-the-inch precision. Rather than shifting blame or nitpicking a forecast after a catastrophe that has killed 28 children, a more productive line of questioning is why so many people did not receive emergency alerts, or at least receive the alerts with enough time to act. Why did the so-called last mile of communication break down? As we grieve this catastrophe, we also refuse to consign it to inevitability. We yearn for the day when Texas is proactive in working to prevent tragedies rather than reactive in their aftermath.
That's fair.
And the piece there came from the board of the San Antonio Express-News.
And Jonathan Lemire, again, let's underline the fact that Texas had a massive rainy day fund, and we're not just talking about Texas here. We could talk about a lot of states that have moved over the past 20, 30 years to slash as much government as they could slash. We saw it actually on the federal level where, they were just slashing government services without really much of a second thought. That, of course, probably has nothing to do with this.
I want to move on. This.
Okay, if there's one AI site builder you need to
Not
meet,
this.
this is Dope Tech from Wix.
Breaking for you this morning, the search and rescue efforts in Central Texas now a much bigger mission than we knew just 24 hours ago. Officials there have announced the number of missing from the catastrophic floods has skyrocketed to more than 170 people now. The number of dead has also climbed to at least 111. Also, we have new details now about Camp Mystic, the all-girls Christian camp where at least 27 campers and counselors are among the dead. CNN obtaining records showing a state inspector certified that the camp did have an emergency plan in place just a couple of days before the floods. And this morning, the scrutiny is growing. Were officials prepared enough? And why were evacuations not ordered ahead of this massive flood? CNN has learned that Texas officials twice rejected funding applications from Kerr County, the hardest hit, for a flood warning system dating back nearly a decade. And so Kerr County never got the sirens that could have alerted residents when the floods came overnight. Our team is in the flood zone. CNN's Pamela Brown is in Kerrville Forest.
That was a whole ass house. Just look at that. The whole ass house, and there's like everything is attached still. Wild. There might be people in there. That's awful.
Overnight. Our team is in the flood zone. CNN's Pamela Brown is in Kerrville Forest, and Isabel Rosales is in Center Point, two of the devastated Texas communities. Let's start with you, Pam. You have some new reporting about the preparedness at Camp Mystic. What can you tell us this morning, as all of these families are mourning what happened there?
Yeah, absolutely. The mourning continues. The emotion's still very raw here on the ground. I can tell you, Sarah, that according to records seen and obtained, a state inspector visited Camp Mystic 2 days before the deadly flooding and found that it was in compliance for Texas regulations on youth camps, that there was an emergency plan in place at Camp Mystic in the event of a disaster or a serious accident or a fatality. Now, we should note that Texas regulations for youth camps don't say anything about flood zones, and
Oh my God, that's so high.
Now, we should note that Texas regulations.
Look at that. That is at least That's really fucking high. I'm gonna tell you that right now. If that's a 8-foot door frame, about 7 feet.
Regulations for youth camps don't say anything about flood zones, and we don't know if this emergency plan took that into account or whether it also took communication breakdowns into account, because we are learning more about some of the communication gaps there at Camp Mystic. I spoke to a counselor who said for the most part counselors didn't have a walkie-talkies, only leadership at the camp, and the owners did have that. And we know that the counselors didn't have cell phones with them, and that the loudspeaker at the camp wasn't functioning because...
And those awnings probably made it so hard for anybody to be able to get out. Even if they open the window, there's still not enough
power
headroom.
outages. I also told by the counselor I spoke to that she personally did not receive sort of emergency evacuation training. And we're hearing more and more stories about the heroism of these counselors who really jumped into action during that deadly flooding. There were 2 counselors who are speaking out about what they did for their campers, saying that they wrote the campers' names on their skin when they learned what was happening and quickly moved them to higher ground. So many stories like that where these counselors saved so many lives. It's really inspiring. But at the same time, Sarah, we know that not everyone made it out of live there at Camp Mystic. We're learning more about one of the campers who didn't. Greta Toronzo was a camper who had been at Camp Mystic for 3 years. Her mother released a statement saying Greta was kind, creative, and full of love, and also brave, athletic, and determined. We miss her bright spirit, her sweet smile, and her endlessly loving heart. Sarah.
Oh, what a sweet, sweet picture of her. And I know you have been going through it as a former camper there at Camp Mystic. You've been bringing us such gripping stories about how people are handling this. Thank you so much, Pamela. All right, now over to you, Isabel. We've seen this number now skyrocket, the number of people officials say is missing. And I'm curious what that means to those who have been on the ground there for days trying to find either bodies or those who may possibly still be alive.
Sarah, good morning. That was a big moment yesterday. I was with volunteers when I was listening in on the press conference from the governor, Greg Abbott, and I heard that figure and I related it back to them because they weren't listening in, and they were all quiet, stunned. It was clearly a very shocking moment, but then they told me, yeah, okay, this is a focus. We've got a number now. We know now how many people we need to find. So clearly, this is something that has given them even more drive than they've had this entire time, because it is a goal now. A goal. I want to introduce you to Michael Tober, who is the founder of Mission Mules. This is a Christian nonprofit, and if that name is familiar, it is because this same organization was there on the ground in Asheville, North Carolina, helping out with medical supplies, with food, everything that was needed in the search happening in the mountains there. Can you talk me through, Michael, what it is that you guys are doing this morning? I'll follow you.
Okay, this morning we're waiting. We got a briefing coming up. So we want to get saddled up and be ready, and then these guys will get their assignments, and then they will have us.
Horses are smart because they're quieter than cars. You're going through areas like you need to be able to hear, and horses, especially if they're well trained, walk really quietly and really just help you focus in on sounds that you need to hear that you won't be able to hear with a car or a motorcycle or something to that effect. And they can also get over more ground than you can on foot. So that's really smart.
Start packing their saws, their fuel, everything they need to do recovery work. So that's what we're doing right now. My guys are starting to saddle. I'll go ahead and saddle up.
And I'm wondering, as you're saddling up your mule right here, you have 6 of them. Can you walk me through, you guys got into town yesterday, can you walk me through what struck you about the situation here in Central Texas in comparison to what happened in Asheville?
I'll have to say here, if you look across this river here, you see how high the high water mark is. Some of that stuff's 30 and 35 foot off the ground. And that was the first thing that I noticed, was how much volume had come through here.
Yeah, and this is different than the situation in North Carolina, because you were trying to...
Girl, you better get away from the back of that horse. What the hell are you doing over there?
access communities that were essentially cut off.
Right.
The roads there were blocked to the mountains. What are the challenges that you're experiencing out here? How is this different? And how are these mules helping out?
So, yeah, like you said, in North Carolina, we were getting people that were actually cut off. Here, you can drive most of where you got to go, but that once you get to that point where the water was running the hardest, you had, like down up the street here, there's some 3-4 foot slides. You got to come off the rocks, and not really any harder. It's just a different type of work. It's just all rock this time. But that's pretty much what they use this for. The least amount we can make these guys travel with loads, because we continually do this, the better. So if we can drive down there and we can take them in
This one looks like a donkey.
empty and then load up where the trucks stop and then go in, that's what we do here.
Thank you so much. I know that you're packing supplies and going behind teams of cadaver dogs. So as they go in and make sure that there's no one left behind, they're going in there with all of those supplies. We thank you for your time, guys.
Yeah. Mules, horses, cadaver dogs, and dozens of rescuers going out every single day. It is heartening to see. Isabel Rosales.
Is FEMA coming in? They come in yet?
Thank you to you and to our Pam Brown.
I like that the guy from like, not FEMA, but wherever, one of the government offices was like, oh, we're just, there's a hurricane. And then Trump's like, oh, we'll just cancel FEMA, or we'll work it down till after hurricane season, then it'll be donezo. And it's like, one, hurricane season never really feels like it ends anymore. And two, there are other things outside of hurricane season
as well, who was in the flood zone. John.
All right, senior Texas officials have now acknowledged that if Kerr County had flood warning sirens, that lives might have been saved. With us, Nicole Wilson from San Antonio. She started an online petition calling for Kerr County to install these sirens. Nice to see you this morning, Nicole. Talk to me about why. What was the instigation to get you started on this?
Ultimately, I grew up in Kentucky, where tornadoes are extremely prevalent there. We lived and died by the tornado sirens, and this was in the 80s and 90s when there were no text alerts. But those sirens were across the county, and you would hear them at 3 a.m. in the morning, and they would wake you up. And we had 2 different sounds for watches and warnings, and so you knew where to go based on which siren was going off. We trained from the time we were children until we were adults, and on the protocols for tornadoes, where if you're driving a car, where to go. So when I found out that there were not sirens in this area and in a lot of areas in the state of Texas, I don't think we have them in San Antonio. And we had.
I was gonna say, doesn't Texas also get tornadoes sometimes? Isn't that like sometimes I think?
Tornado a few years ago, and that blew my mind, because tornadoes are, sirens are simply an easy warning system that everybody will hear it within range. And you do have to put them within range. So there are multiple sirens that, you have to kind of plan that out from a proximity perspective, but you cannot rely on text. So for example, my daughters were just at a faith-based camp. These children are not allowed to bring any technology whatsoever. It'll get confiscated, because they're there to be present. They're there to grow in their faith. And the counselors are also not allowed to have cell phones in the cabins. And so you cannot rely on the text alerts. Additionally, in this area, in San Antonio at least, we've started getting text alerts for amber alerts, silver alerts, blue alerts at 3 a.m. And so many people have kind of grown numb to these alerts that are going off, and they'll hear the alert, they'll roll over, they'll go back to bed. Cell phones service is incredibly spotty. It's so bad that where we live in the San Antonio area next to a major resort, there are places in my house I can't go and have cell phone service. I have 2 internet providers to compensate for that. And still don't always have service. And so I assume it's very similar in that rural area, that there is not always the right cell service. But the bottom line is, this happened in the middle of the night. People were asleep. people absolutely did not hear the phone go off. Some people sleep with their phones off. And so you cannot rely on one. And I think I just heard this in another.
I went to shake my peach iced tea and I didn't put the lid on all the way last time. Just a reminder, check your lids before you shake. Dripping all down. Oh, God. It's a hot mess.
Speaker, but layered security for TSA enabled them, Secretary Noem, to work with TSA for people not to have to take their shoes off going through the x-ray systems, right? And it was a layered security effect, right? And so the same thing goes for risk mitigation. You have to have layers, and you cannot rely on one single mitigation.
Gourmet for Less at all makes you feel.
NBC's Jay Gray, and editor and publisher of the Kerr County Lead. NBC's Jay Gray, and editor.
Dick Steele Days are happening now. Score amazing limited time savings like great deals on Hoka, 60% off bats, $400 off Ping clubs. Scorecard members earn a $20 bonus reward on your purchase of $150.
Craig, just your reaction to learning that in the first hour, these police officers jumped into action. This is something we learned, the details that were provided at this press conference, that there was a patrol sergeant starting his duty. He was trapped on an island of sorts because a lot of the pathways to get into the community had already been flooded over. So he was there seeing people who were in need of help close to his home, it sounds like, people on roofs, people in the water. He called for backup. There was another officer who responded. They started trying to save people. And within a first hour, they evacuated over 100 homes, rescued over 200 people. He said they pulled people out of vehicles. They were pulling people out of homes that were flooding through windows. He described how there was a hose that they wrapped around each other as they waded into the floodwaters to get to people who were clinging to trees. So they responded after the water was rising, but it appears there are still gaps as to how the alert system operated and how quickly people were able to respond, even perhaps before the floodwaters had reached that
they're all the way
point.
over.
How important is it to close those gaps in the communication system?
What we're seeing here is the local response to an absolute calamity, and the heartache that that community is feeling is something that I think we all feel. And I can particularly resonate with it, as when I was a young boy, I found a 10-year-old drowning victim. And I understand what the first responders are doing. They are heroes. And the communication gaps that may emerge after the review of this incident and this calamity is performed, those are learning lessons. And as many folks might say in different areas, the rules and the lessons are learned and written in blood. When we have a loss, we seem to make changes to accommodate those. But there are avenues of opportunity that are in front of us where we can get ahead of these types of things. And I'd be happy to elaborate.
Please.
But I think that your on-the-ground reporter might be back now, if you care to.
Yeah, I definitely want to come back to you and hear what your thoughts are in terms of what improvements can be made, just based on what we know already. Priscilla, I know you were listening into that press conference, having been there now for some time. What stood out to you?
Yeah, Anna, of course, the focus remains on finding the missing. But what was really striking is the questions that they could not answer about the resources that were on the ground here before those floodwaters rushed in. You have the governor and state officials saying that Texas Department of Emergency Management pre-positioned resources. The governor yesterday saying that they were prepared. The state was prepared. But when local officials were asked what resources were on the ground, they were unable to answer that question. And you would think that they would know ahead of this flooding happening, or ahead of this potential bad weather, what resources they had on the ground to work with.
Why do they keep bringing all the loud shit around? I don't understand it. Maybe it's me, but from what I've learned, that when you have some kind of situation like this, be it post-hurricane or post-rainstorm, you need to be quiet as fucking possible. So you can hear people if they're still alive.
The other big question there was that there was reportedly a phone call between state officials and local officials. And again, the mayor saying he did not receive a call. So I think out of this presser, there are going to be a lot more questions about the preparedness, about perhaps a disconnect between local officials and state officials and what may have happened there. But of course, the other big focus of this press conference was on the more than 100 people who are still missing. The officials there really urging people that they've got some really big, heavy machinery out here. And so they want to make sure that if folks are searching on their own, volunteer groups that are searching, when you see that heavy machinery out there, do not go into those areas and attempt to search because they are sort of doing their methodical procedure that way as they are dealing with these huge downed trees. You have potentially pieces of homes, cars in there. So that was another big focus there. And you really saw them early on trying to set the tone of like the questions about accountability, whether they were prepared, what should have been done will be answered. They said that they were not trying to dodge those questions. But one other thing we heard there was the sheriff was telling these stories of first responders, and the first responder that was getting up to go to work and went out and saw that it was already flooded. He tried to speak to some of those people that he saw on roofs. But I guess the question is, why was he just waking up? You know, did he get the call to wake up and go to work then? Was that his normal time to go to work?
I feel like it was his normal time to go to work.
Or had he gotten the call as soon as this started to happen? Because it sounds like by the time he got out there, it was already too late, which is the problem. Anna?
Right. And remember, based on what we've learned through the National Weather Service timeline, the first flash flood warnings went out saying there was considerable flash flood warning for Bandera, Care, and other counties in that area. Were triggered at 1:14 in the morning. So that would have been, as our understanding is, before the worst of the flooding really had begun. Priscilla, I wonder what you know also about these new records NBC News obtained showing that.
So here's what the timeline is according to whatever this is. Timeline of Texas flood alerts. So, got Monday, flood hazard outlook expanded Thursday morning, sorry. And this is in Central Time. 8:47 a.m. Texas Division of Emergency Management post-flood guidance on X. 1:18 p.m. Central Time Thursday. Flood watch in effect through Friday morning. 11:06 p.m. Central Time. San Angelino flash flood warning. FFW. Now on. They knew for hours, yeah. 11:41 p.m. Central Time. Bandera County flash flood warning. 1:14 a.m. Considerable flash flood warning for Bandera Kerr triggers wireless emergency alerts. 4:03 a.m. Flash flood warning upgraded to flash flood emergency for Kerr. 4:13 a.m. San Angelino flash flood warning upgraded to catastrophic. 4:35 a.m. First reports from Kerr County officials of flooding at low waters. 5 a.m. First flash flood local storm reports in San Angelino. 5:34 a.m. Flash flood emergency issued for Guadalupe River. It's almost like 24 hours. Insane.
Camp Mystic had an emergency plan in place and that officials had signed off on it just 2 days before these floods. What do we know about that plan and who would have been in charge of executing it?
Yeah, so there are still a lot of questions about that plan. We don't have the specifics of every detail that was in it, but we do know that the state did sign off saying that this was an approved disaster plan, which means that it had to meet certain state qualifications, including instructing campers what to do if they needed to evacuate and assigning specific duty to staff members and counselors. So it appears that
they didn't have walkies, didn't have their cell phones. How was anybody supposed to know about this? Like, I am very upset that the camp owner died. I'm glad he was able to rescue. They were able to rescue, but at the same time, how much of this could have been prevented with walkie-talkies? Or a siren?
people should have known what to do in this situation. And of course, still a lot of questions about what exactly happened, whether they were able to do all of those things. And so that's something that we're looking at right now. And we do know there was a plan in place. It had been approved by the state as recently as just 2 days before this happened. But many of those details we're still trying to find out.
Craig, we know Kerr County authorities had discussed these warning systems more than 20 times since 2016. We heard our Morgan Chesky ask a question about that. Again, no specific answers about looking back, only focusing forward. Let's focus forward. You said there are some things that you've identified that could be better here. What are those?
Well, in terms of issuing the weather forecast, I want to go back to your comment about the first responders. I would put the National Weather Service forecasters in that similar batch of heroes. They are working in an understaffed environment, and they're covering the obligations that are necessary in order to continue to keep the public safe. So the withdrawal of funds and the firing of people that have taken place in NOAA is remarkably troubling to me, because these National Weather Service people, the forecast office, staff, and beyond, are undermanned, understaffed in order to fulfill the complete mission. I think the people in the local forecast offices did what Weather Service forecasters do routinely. They work heroically. They work around the clock. They work without sleep in order to provide the right types of forecasts. They should not have to be doing that now, and they are because of the staff cuts that have gone on. That's my first problem. My second problem is the tools that the weather forecasters are given are generated by scientific research, high-performance computing, modelers, and scientists that work these tools together. The current proposal under the Trump budget is to eliminate the research labs and universities that work collaboratively to produce these results. If you want your forecasts to get better, you can't kill the research that's behind it, but that is
He wants to privatize them.
apparently now going to happen if the Trump budget is passed. And that to me is criminal, because you can look at your video, you can listen to the pain and the heartache in these communities. There will be more communities. This has been described as a 100-year event. Well, plenty of 100-year events are happening every 10 years, every 5 years.
I'm glad someone in the professional space is saying this, because I've only heard this from like Twitch streams. So it's really refreshing to hear this from like an actual person being interviewed by the news that's like, that the news people take seriously.
There's a community near me that had 500-year flooding events twice in a decade. So this is changing. This is climate change. This is the reality that we're under, and taking money away from the science that will help make people safe.
Sadly, this is probably going to push the conversation of climate change even further than it already went post Maria, because regular people who never thought that this would affect them, who heard, oh, the sea level's going to rise. Well, I live in Texas. I'm okay. This is affecting them now. And it's only going to be a matter of time before they get just as angry as all of us have been. So I hope that momentum stays up, and I think it will. My heart goes out to these communities. Volunteers, everyone. Awful. But at the same time, this was preventable.
Safer by more accurate forecasts and by denying climate change. That is not the way for America to keep our citizens safe.
NBC's Jay Gray and editor and publisher of the Kerr County Lead, Louis Amistoy, are both live in Kerrville, Texas. I'm also joined by Michael Mann, director of the Penn Center for Science, Sustainability, and the Media. Thank you all for being here. Jay, Kerrville, of course, the hardest hit. What is the situation on the ground today?
Yeah. Well, it's the sixth day, Chris, as you well know, of the search, the rescue, recovery here. And I've got to tell you, we had been hearing from officials for days that there were dozens missing, that there were I'm quoting them here, a lot of people.
This is from 4 hours ago at 11 a.m. their time.
Missing. The revelation from the governor yesterday that just here in Kirk County 161 are missing was a gut punch to so many who are struggling right now. Those teams are out, though. They're working. You see behind us, there's someone right here that is going through some of the debris along the river right now. And you see these individuals looking. You see teams coming out. We know that they've added more resources to this search. 4 Black Hawk helicopters moving in yesterday from Arkansas, more drones to look and see in places where people can't get to at this point. They're going to start pulling away some of this larger debris. And
if I worked in the news media, the thing I would cover is not necessarily the Medicaid anymore in the Big Beautiful Bill, but I would start covering the FEMA and like the benefits that people get from having like a government that takes care of their citizens, and seeing how much of that gets stripped away from the Big Beautiful Bill, because I think that's going to really impact states like Texas.
Trying to,
and I don't mean just like it's going to impact states like Texas because they're going to be the hardest hit. I mean, like, I think seeing those numbers is going to be important to the people of Texas.
Make sure that no one's trapped underneath pockets like this. And they're also telling people who live in the area, whose homes have been damaged, who have this type of debris in their yards, don't move anything. We don't want you to move anything. There's a burn ban here. You know, we're out in a rural part of Texas. They burn things a lot of times when they have these huge catastrophes like this. But they're saying there may be somebody trapped there, and so we don't want to take that chance. Call us. We will come out and look at this before you move anything. So it's a very active investigation here, a recovery, if you will. They are still holding out hope that perhaps they'll find someone alive, though even the men on the ground here will tell you that they are losing that hope as this gets longer. One other quick note, Chris. I talked to a couple of first responders last night who have been on the ground and who have been working here since the flood. One tells me, I'm not surprised at the governor's numbers yesterday. I've been out in this and I see it. Another one telling me he thinks that number's low, that 161 here in Kirk County is low. He thinks there'll be more.
Jay Gray, I appreciate your reporting all week long. Lewis, it is obviously not just Governor Abbott. We all saw this moment at yesterday's presser that I want to remind folks of.
The community here is asking these questions. What happened? When did it happen? Was the emergency manager awake at the time? Did they push the button to issue an emergency alert?
Sir, it's not that easy when you just push a button, okay? There's a lot more to that. And we've told you several times.
So did it happen, sir?
I can't tell you at this time. Okay.
I've watched, Lewis, from afar, the range of emotions. I've watched the grieving. I've watched the searching. I've watched the questioning, all of them completely understandable in an unfathomable situation. Tell us what you're seeing and hearing and how the community is responding to what is really legitimate questions at a time when people want to focus maybe on other things.
Well, I mean, I got to tell you that I don't subscribe to the code red thing myself because I don't know. I mean, it's an opt-in deal, right? It's not like an Amber Alert, and even an Amber Alert you can opt out of. My question has been from the start. I got my first National Weather Service alert on my phone at 7:17 a.m. I finally went through my messages yesterday and I found that alert. And I actually confronted some people today about this reporting. Like, well, wait a minute here. Code red is kind of an opt-in thing. This is why was the National Weather Service not pinging us repeatedly once that first severe storm warning or a thunderstorm warning came out at 1 o'clock in the morning? Because remember, at midnight our time, we had just a flash flood watch or a flood watch. We didn't have a flash flood warning. We had a flood watch. So it was very early in the morning. And I am actually crowdsourcing this now because some folks said, oh, we've got proof that it was at 1:15, 1:16, and certainly the National Weather Service can ping they can geo-target within a
it's camera.
A very sorry, it's very humid here, so my camera's going bad. But at 1:15. Why wasn't it county-wide, right? Why weren't they pinging everybody in the county saying, this is an emergency? Because then you can have a situation where you have a phone game there where everyone's like calling everybody. You can still call people and hunt and elsewhere. I'm curious about why that wasn't the case, really, more than the county's response. And I think that in the press conference today, you saw a real strong pushback too, because one of the things that people forget about is in 1987, they had a flood here that killed some kids in a bus. They were trying to evacuate. And they made a very good point. They let Sergeant Jonathan Lamb get up today from the Kerrville Police Department, who's grown up here, lived here his entire life, a veteran. And he just said, look, there's numerous water crossings. You had every creek, and not only that, you have to cross the other side of the river, the North Fork of the river, which is also being inundated. There's some questions that are going to have to be answered by Governor Abbott. Allow these buildings to go into these floodways, not just floodplains, they're in the floodway. And FEMA, there's documentation from FEMA about this, allowing some of this to happen. But remember, here in Texas, we don't want to be told how to develop our land. And so you're going to have a real fight here about what's good for, it's the same thing in California, right? When you have an urban, when you have these fires that go and burn up places where basically people shouldn't live because they're living on top of a chimney. Same kind of concept. So do we want to prevent people from living in the hill country, or are we going to focus on these alerts? I don't know that you could have gotten anybody out when that thing was stuck where it was geographically, or, and the geology of the hill country. I think we're asking the wrong questions here right now. I think what we're going to have to do is figure out the recovery.
And those questions are going to need to be, Michael, based on science, right? In the last week, we've ticked off, we did this at the top of the show, at least 4 mass flooding events that our climate unit here describe as 1,000-year flood events. So when you look at that and the very smart questions that were just raised by Lewis, tell us what is going on here. What does the science tell us about what the future holds?
It tells us we're dead.
Yeah,
It tells us we're literally cooked. We're gonna get roasted and fucking stewed up, man.
question that climate change is an exacerbating factor here. Yes, there are a whole bunch of things that came together, but climate change has made these events worse. It's made them more deadly. And at some level, it's actually really simple. It's simple physics that tells us you warm up the planet, you warm up the oceans 2 degrees Fahrenheit, which is what they've warmed up so far. You put about 7% more moisture in the atmosphere. So when you get rainfall, you get that much more rainfall. But that's just part of it. It turns out the increase can be much greater than that, not just 7%, but 20, 30%, because of the fact that you get more powerful storms that entrain more moisture into the air. And so there's that factor alone. And then on top of that, these weather systems are increasingly likely to become stalled. They just sit in the same location.
Yeah, because there's no wind to push them. They're just hovering.
Day after day. Our own research suggests that that too is a pattern that is being favored by human-caused warming. And so you put it all together, you get these extreme flooding events, and even worse, we're seeing extremes on both sides of the spectrum. So one summer, extremely dry, drought, wildfires. The next summer, huge amounts of rainfall. And then you get these compound events where, for example, because the ground is so parched, it can't absorb the water that's coming
which
down.
is what you and I were saying yesterday, Dorothy.
And so it funnels more water into these rivers and you get worse flooding. A whole bunch of things that came together, climate change playing a role in each one of those.
It's awful, but I'm glad people are addressing it.
Gourmet for less at all.
These are the conversations we should have been having when, like, Al Gore was president. What was gonna possibly be president. Because, like, it warned us. Now we're seeing the effects.
Makes you feel extra. It's an Aldi thing.
There's DIY, and there's doing it yourself.
Well, my next guest was inside her RV home in Kerr County when the waters came rushing in. Fortunately, Julia Hatfield and her husband were able to escape, but all 33 RVs in their community were completely swept away. But that wasn't even the worst of it for Julia. Her heart sunk when she started hearing a little boy screaming and then looked up and witnessed him floating downstream after being caught in the waters. Julia felt helpless.
I was about to jump in and my husband had to hold me back. He said, "You're gonna go too, and there's nothing you can do if you jump in." I didn't know how I was gonna live with that. And thankfully, by the end of the day yesterday, I saw his face online and he had been rescued.
Wow, I actually didn't even know that. Julia Hatfield joining us now with not only your story of survival, but you actually saw this little boy online. Give us all the context.
Why is she like this? Why is she like, oh yeah, girl, give me the tea? It's like, bro, she thought she was gonna have to carry a child's death on her, like, conscience for the rest of her life. Like, could you not? Could you calm it down? Please take your brunch personality elsewhere.
Do you know who he is? Tell us how you knew it was him.
So that night, everything happened so quickly. We just were unable to do so much that we wanted to do to help our neighbors. We did what we could, and then at some point, the rescue workers had to take it over, but the water was so strong that I was screaming. And I kept saying, there's a child, and next thing I know, I saw him from up above floating downstream, and when I ran down, I mean, he was gone at that point. And so in those moments, you wonder, what could I have done? And my husband was just saying, Julia, do not get in the water, because there just was nothing to be done. And so that following afternoon, a friend of mine said a little boy was found who was washed away from an RV park. And I just had this gut feeling, and I looked it up, and sure enough, the little boy I'd been describing to my family all day was him in the photo.
So do you know if he's alive, or was that okay? It was proof of life. Oh my gosh, I hesitated for a second because okay. So have you been able to talk to him, or I know there's a lot going on, but I mean, obviously we're fascinated by this.
What would she do? Would she be like, hey, I was gonna save you, but I couldn't? Like, why would you? Oh my God, no one trusts news media, because this is the kind of journalism that we're getting. You call the boy you couldn't save and that you thought was dead? Did you have a conversation with him? Girl, stop.
His story and didn't know the outcome. Have you been able to connect with him?
I haven't been able to connect with him. I am afraid, from what I'm seeing online, that he might have lost a lot of his family. So as we go through this point where we're just kind of looking through piles and trying to give people closure, after all this dies down, however long it takes, which is going to be a while, I would love to reconnect with him and see that he's okay and has support going forward.
Well, let me tell you, we'd love to hear about it, Julia, so keep us updated. If you don't mind, I'd like to go back to that night, because you talk about the dozens of RVs that were around you that got swept away. You said that if your husband wouldn't have been awake, it could have been a completely different outcome for you too. Tell us what happened, and when did you know that it was serious and you had to get out of there?
Well, my husband had stayed awake. The rain was coming down really hard, and so he was making sure we didn't have any leaks in our RV. And he started to hear screaming, and he looked out and saw that the lower level of the park that's about 4 feet lower than us. The RVs were already have water up to the doors, and he woke me up immediately. And if he hadn't been there, it could have been a very different story.
And what did you do at that point? He woke you up, and what exactly did you guys do?
In that moment, honestly, I thought, well, what do you grab in this situation? And not many things came to mind. You'd think there'd be just these special items, but the only thing I could think of were instruments. And so I threw them in the car, and we had to drive it to the top of the hill before the floodwaters came any further. And after that, it was like, what are we doing to help? There was a lady who was really upset, who just moved in the park the day before. She had just bought her RV. And she was just asking for our help, and we were trying to help her. And at some point, my husband had to say, "You have to let it go." And I think a lot of people were in denial about what was happening because it was just happening so fast, a little too fast to process.
Sure, no. And these are the stories that we've been hearing. And so, okay, now that you're able to sort of take a breath and just sort of, I guess, think about everything that has happened, how are you and your husband discussing moving forward, rebuilding? Will you stay in Texas? How are you and others sort of thinking about what's next?
Well, Texas is my home, and RV life has been my dream for a long time. We're newlyweds, and we just absolutely love having an RV. So I know that's definitely a next step. But honestly, the biggest thing right now, we've been going back and forth to try and help find people. And so there's so many conversations that we haven't had yet. And I hope that RVing is in our future at some point. But at this point, it's all about going back and doing whatever we can.
Well, I'll tell you what, Julia, if you guys can survive this at the beginning of your relationship, you can survive anything, and you have each other.
Listen, trauma can take many forms. Don't jinx somebody's marriage, okay? Sometimes you go through a really catastrophic event and you make it through, but you're not always the same person you went into it as.
And what a blessing that your husband stayed awake. You tell us, congratulations to that. You know, we complain about not getting a lot of sleep, but in times like this, what a blessing. Please let us know if you connect with that little boy, Julia. We'd love to hear how that goes, all right?
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
We appreciate you,Lia.
Wix
So
gives you the
weird.
power
What
of
the-
AI
what was that
to build the
interview?
website you need. With full business functionality
You know that
and
boy
a design
you say
tailored
that like you thought
just
was
for
dead
you.
and it weighed on your conscience?
Customize every element of your website.
Let's Oh, here we go. Finally, somebody to listen to.
There's DIY, and there's doing it yourself.
Bill,
We're continuing to follow
always
the
spitting
desperate
straight
search in
facts.
Texas. Last hour, officials said at least 119 people have died and even more remain missing. In New Mexico, residents experienced similar panic during record-breaking, that's what they called it, floodwaters. That was yesterday. A river 3 surged from less than 2 feet to more than 20 in less than an hour. At least 3 people were killed. Nearly 100 people were rescued.
A really big flood just came, like a wall of flood. It came and it started going through, and that's when I started recording because it got so wild so quickly.
In central North Carolina, another, quote, once in a 100-year flood. In Chicago, a, quote, 1 in a 1,000-year rain event. That's all just this week. Joining me now to try to make sense of this and more is Bill Nye.
Trying to make sense of it. Something he's been explaining to us for the last 30 years.
I am the science guy. Thanks for being here.
It's good to be here. I'm sorry. I really am sorry for all the trouble.
It's terrible. And so just that last part of what we were describing, you keep hearing once in a lifetime, once in 100 years, once in 1,000 years. At this point, it's not anymore. It's just where we are.
Oh my, this is like shocking. This is shocking me. And I'm not trying to be like facetious or like that's not how literally works. Like, I want to take you back to a time when people made fun of global warming so much because it snowed that they had to change the name to global climate change. And now they've even had to change it to like man-made temperature increases in order to get around the algorithm, okay? And now we've got actual news organizations. We've seen CBS so far, CNN, and MSNBC all talking about and speaking to scientists about how these once-in-a-lifetime events, 1 in a 1,000-year events, are happening every day now. It's kind of shocking for me, and I'm going to take some time to process it because, again, I grew up on the side of like freedom fries and like global warming's not real, it's snowing. No one used to talk about this. Even CNN and MSNBC would like laugh it off. But now it's becoming like a real topic.
With the climate and the environment.
Oh, that's, as we like to say, our side of it, the science side of it. This is exactly what was predicted. It's very difficult to tie any one weather event to climate change. However, the warm weather events are actually easier to tie to climate change. And so the other problem that happened in the hill country in Texas is this business of the Balcony escarpment, where the air mass got lifted. So it spread out and the rain came down even faster. But it'll happen again, to your point. And everybody's talked about this for years. And the technologies for warning systems exist. You know, where people have tidal or tsunami events, these sort of warning systems can be put up. But you got to get to higher ground very quickly. And the point that I believe was being made in the video a moment ago was the mass of the water. A 20-foot high mass of water in a half hour is you can't just float your way out of it.
Yeah.
No,
it
you
knocks
can't.
everything over. Everybody knows you pick up a bucket of water, you know how heavy it is. And you get a lot of water going that fast. So what are we going to do about it is the ancient question, and it would be to stop burning fossil fuels. When you're in a hole, stop digging, and so on. But the fossil fuel industry has been very successful in getting organizations like the U.S. Congress to think that it's really not happening.
Well, and the first 6 months of the Trump administration, we've seen an end to some of the federal efforts.
I still haven't got over Steve Irwin's death. I will not be okay when this man dies.
Oh, you almost had it. You gotta be quicker than that.
And the winner is @blue_power.
Hi, Blue!
Efforts on not just fossil fuel, but other efforts that had been in place government-wide to promote alternative energy.
Yes, to be the world leader, to have the U.S. lead the world in renewable energy sources, so that we would be able to export our technologies, that people would want to come to the U.S. to learn how to do this stuff and so on. So the opportunities still exist, but we do need to turn things around. And this is, of course, you're getting my side of the story.
It's Bill Nye the badass guy.
It's the science side.
Yeah, well, yeah. And you know, I'm a big fan of this, everybody.
Oh, yeah?
The U.S. Constitution, Article 1. I like to show this to people. Article 1, Section 8. Article 1's the legislative branch, Congress. Section 8 is the miscellany, letters of marque about piracy, and the progress of science and useful arts. The word science is in the U.S. Constitution.
Guess what? We even have a graphic made so that the people at home can read
good.
that small print.
What a badass. He's like, you know what I like? I like to carry around the Constitution. You know what I like even more? I like this specific highlighted passage. What a DILF. What a grandpa I'd love to fuck. What a guy. Bam. God, when people do shit like that, when they're like, look, I'm going to take this opportunity that you're giving me to speak on a message and hit points that I know are going to hit people, I'm going to do that. I respect that so fucking much. I have something through my tooth.
So you can read it again.
But I mention it because these guys in 1787 realized the value of science for our health, our welfare, and our international competitiveness. It's not a new idea.
Especially for health, because if you guys remember from when we watched Puppet History, George Washington's army got the smallpox, and they had to get inoculated from the smallpox. Oh, nice. We make it. Goal done. 82%, 20 days left. I think we're gonna make it, guys. But, like, so exhausted right now. Did you have work? My stepson was watching your stream last night. Josh likes, Hobby likes to leave your open when I'm streaming, even when he can't watch. So I saw that you were streaming, so I just popped in there. And then I just was like, I'll leave the viewer up. And then my stepson was watching it in between his videos when it was like ads and stuff. I hope there wasn't too much swearing. Nah, he was fine. He enjoyed it. He was like, wow, I really want Call of Duty. It was really fun to watch. I was like, hell yeah.
And so to set science aside is not in anyone's best interest. And so I spent the morning on Capitol Hill in Lindsey Graham's office, Ted Cruz's office, and then Adam Schiff's office. So these are two very conservative guys, one very progressive guy, and everybody shares the idea that NASA is the best brand the United States has.
Let's talk about that because, as you said, you're here.
I'm streaming BioShock Friday, playing it for the first time. Nice. Okay, nice. I'll have to keep an eye out. I don't think I'm off Friday, but if it's on when I'm done stream, I'll write in. I also have to keep an eye on the time.
To lobby on behalf of...
Well, we don't lobby. That's a legal word.
Sorry.
We are advocating.
To talk to people who make decisions in their offices about proposed cuts to NASA.
Yeah. Really, I mean, extraordinary cuts. I mean, cut in half kind of thing.
I just want to say that your organization, the Planetary Society, created a visual, which we can also put on the screen, of the cuts, the most since 1961, and that was before an American astronaut went into space.
Yeah, the cuts proposed are really extraordinary and, if I may, out of this world. And where exactly...
You know who else defunded NASA? Look at this. Ronald Reagan. Interesting. And then look, back in the 90s, Clinton. Pre-1990 Bush W. And then right here we have Clinton, to about, I would say like 1993, and then it slowly decreases over time. This is the entire Bush administration right here from 2000, about right here, which would be 2008. Then we have Obama in 2010, and then it's decreasing. Then we have Trump here about 2015. Then we have Biden in office, you go right here, and now we have Trump in office. Shortly after my stream, I modded a Nintendo Wii. Sick. It's amazing how you can track presidents by the NASA budget.
Exactly the proposals come from is not clear to anybody that we spoke with this morning, but everybody's dealing with it, you know, and they're trying to make these cuts to existing programs, existing missions. And missions, everybody, is a big word that includes the spacecraft and all the people on the ground that are running around maintaining it.
So you're saying
missions are people that help, you know, do code, set up every little bit and piece that is part of the mission. It's not just when the rocket ship takes off. It's all the steps before and after.
That nobody sort of claimed authorship of the cuts?
That we spoke with this morning who had knowledge or said they had knowledge.
Do you think you're going to be successful in getting the money back in?
Well, they're trying. So these are very conservative politicians who are trying to put money back in. And they'll be, right now, it looks like it'll work. But it's very wonky, Dan. I mean, it's the authorization versus appropriations versus the reconciliation versus...
Welcome to Washington.
Yeah. So just everybody, your tax...
Bitch, do not disrespect him like this. He has been talking to Congress and trying to communicate these things with Congress. He's been called in front of Congress 4 years. Shut the fuck up. Show a little bit of respect. Oh my fucking god, I cannot take the news serious ever. Like, this is fucking embarrassing. You don't think one, the most entertaining, but two, one of the highest, scientists in this country who, is generationally known, hasn't been to Washington? I can't remember the name. Mr. Rogers went to fucking Washington. I almost said I couldn't remember his name. Mr. Rogers went to Washington. What makes you think this guy didn't go to Washington? Ugh.
Hours at work. It is very...
This guy just said his favorite thing to carry around is the Constitution, and you said, welcome to Washington. Dear Persephone, please help. Thanks.
There's many traditions where these people reach agreements, but what's been happening, as far as we can tell, is the executive branch has been trying to go around the long traditions of the legislative branch.
That's what Elon Musk, who certainly likes science and likes space.
No, Elon Musk likes money.
So everybody keep in
cuts,
mind, NASA is a big customer for SpaceX.
Yeah.
I mean, they're related. It's not one thing, or it's not one or the other.
Before I let you go, and you've been very generous with your time, I know that you were receiving a lot of texts from the HHS Secretary Robert Kennedy Jr. Trying to convince you the science of connecting autism to vaccines, which you can tell me about the science there. To the point where you had to block him?
Well, I mean, you guys, everybody, texts take up your phone time. He was relentless, page after page after page. So,
howdy, partner.
This year, as you may know, is the 41st anniversary.
Thank you for the follow. Sorry, I can't talk. The 7-foot streamer. Oh my god, that's so tall. Hey, Hobby. Discord on PS5 is kind of bugged. I feel like it's bugged because it's modded and it shouldn't be there.
Of Spinal Tap. And there's posters. Spinal Tap is a movie, everybody. It holds up. We watched
Spinal Tap does hold up. Let's go.
it last year. It's good.
Based.
But
this man is always firing based. On all cylinders.
the drummer, the first drummer that explodes, is Ed Begley. I don't want to give too much away. He lived down the street from me. And he knew Bobby Kennedy Jr. when the two of them were very involved in environmental issues.
Yeah.
So
oh, so he knows a guy who knows a guy. That's pretty cool. The name of my VC channel when I'm on it keeps changing. What does it keep changing to? You sure you weren't hacked? We almost 90% of the way there for Fortnite. I think it's definitely gonna happen.
So that's how I started getting texts from Mr. Kennedy.
Real quick, because we're out of time. Did you? I assume you tried to.
I just told him he's confused causation with correlation. The same old problem. Just because somebody got a vaccination and then somebody else got autism doesn't mean one caused the other. This is science. This is a long time. So that is Mr.
Currently, it's Throne Room Aftermath. Did you change it to that?
Mr. Kennedy's views have been.
It keeps changing to names, random, different servers. See. Yeah, it sounds buggy. Yeah.
Debunked up.
Really funny. I hope no one's fucking with you in your Discord. No, it's supposed to be gaming. Oh my god. I hope nobody's fucking with you. That would be so funny.
Up and down. But I think, respectfully, the president likes things to be chaotic. So he hires people who are controversial on purpose. And here we are.
Bill Nye, it's always good to see you.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you
It's
for
great
being
to be
here.
Keep up the good
I
work.
think it's
First
silly.
Amendment.
I think it's really funny.
Keep it going.
Yeah.
Oh my god, Bill Nye is spitting facts constantly. All right, for the last hour-ish, Throne Room Aftermath was my nickname in high school. Oh, are you sure? Are you sure that's what you're gonna call that? All right, where's my playlist? All right, hold on, I gotta remove some things. Hell yeah! Okay, we do have I want to cover 2 more things about the Texas flood and weather. And then we're going to move on to a little bit of the Epstein stuff.
Right now, there's an intense search and rescue
Hell yeah, I was throne room Rizzler. Oh my.
effort to find potential survivors of the catastrophic floods in Texas. As the death toll rises and the scope of the damage comes into focus, we're seeing a glimmer of hope amid the heartbreak. People are coming together to collect supplies for those who lost everything, including at Hunt Baptist Church, which is overflowing with donations. Joining me now is the pastor of that church, which is located in Kerr County, John Collis. Pastor, thank you so much for your time today.
When you say throne room, all I can think is like the bathroom. And I'm like, I don't want somebody to rizz me in the bathroom. I'm not gonna lie. The only person I want to talk to in the bathroom is that drunk girl. No, there's always a drunk girl in the bathroom. I guess most people don't go in the women's. There's always like one drunk girl in the bathroom who's got to compliment everybody. Most of the time I'm that girl, but since I'm like sober now and I don't drink alcohol, I still prefer hanging out with those girls over anybody else. That's the only throne room Rizzler.
No problem. Glad to be here.
First off, how are you and your congregation doing this morning?
We're doing really well. Just preparing for another day.
I gotta move on. Okay, so 2 days ago we started watching Jay Aubrey's video about Jeffrey Epstein while going through client list stuff. What I'd like to do is go to Voidzilla's videos and have Voidzilla explain you the short form, and then we'll continue the form on another day when I have more time. So we're gonna start from 2 days ago, and then we're gonna move 1 hour ago. So let me link Voidzilla. Let me break this is CoffeeZilla's alternative channel. Sometimes he just posts here without all the extra production. So
performing on the biggest stage in the world was just one step in my journey. Hi, I'm Ronnie.
Hello, welcome back to The Void. Today we're talking about Jeffrey Epstein. The big update, which is just that he had no client list and offed himself. That's according to Axios in a big scoop. They apparently got a hold of this document from the US DOJ and FBI, kind of a joint statement here. We're going to go through it. They say, as a part of a commitment to transparency, the Department of Justice and Federal Bureau of Investigation have conducted an exhaustive review of the investigative holdings related to Jeffrey Epstein. Sort of a relook at the evidence, if you will, and they come to some very interesting findings. And it's interesting in that it's contrary to what a lot of what they've been saying all along, and that's what's kind of the problem here. For the last few months, we've been teased along with these statements about, you know, oh, we've got the client list.
The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients? Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review.
We've got...
I knew when fucking said that she was lying. I was like, bullshit. It is sitting on your desk to throw in the fucking fire.
Thousands of videos.
There are tens of thousands of videos of Epstein with...
Stall. Deny. Deny, delay, depose. That's all anybody does anymore.
Children or child.
And then, you know, Kash Patel goes on Joe Rogan and says, hey, there ain't no videos. If I had a video of a guy on an island committing a felony, don't you think you know about it?
Again, logical play out. If there was a video of some guy or gal committing felonies on an island and I'm in charge, don't you think you'd see it?
It's already. Seems like a bit of a contradiction. Now, Joe Rogan even tries to give him the out. Like, oh, maybe you don't
I don't think we would know about it.
Have it. And he's like, no, we're giving you everything.
If you have access to it.
If I have it, period.
Right.
If I have it.
Right. If you have it.
Right.
But you can't say that you have it.
No, we're giving you everything we have.
So far.
Everything we have so far is
Have
the
you guys
universe.
gone over all the video that's available?
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. That's what takes so much damn time.
And so there already was a wedge with what we were sort of told we're going to get versus then they come out and say, hey, nothing to see here. And today is a little bit more of that. It's a little bit more.
And by today, he means 2 days ago.
Of the finger wagging at the conspiracy theorists, which is ironic given that both Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, who have now come out saying there's nothing to see here, guys, were saying, oh, there's a lot to see here before they got in.
Who killed Jeffrey Epstein?
This doesn't look right. It doesn't look like a suicide.
It's unbelievable. The guy killed himself.
Now, maybe that's because they did a deep dive and they're just being honest with people.
Again, you want me to get, I've seen the whole file. He killed himself.
But I think you deserve criticism if you're going to engage in this type of conspiratorial thinking and then when it's convenient for you, you expect the trust of the people. If you're the one saying like, hey, those guys can't be trusted, you become that guy and you go, well, guys, you can trust me, right? When I'm going to say the exact same thing everyone's been saying this whole time. That's why it's so stupid. I mean, you guys set up all the wrong expectations. You told us we're going to reveal the truth. And now they're saying there's nothing to see here. And shame on you for thinking there was.
Yeah.
And once again, this is more self-contradiction because in this statement, we actually find immediately first page, second paragraph, saying that there's a large volume of images of Epstein, images and videos of victims who are either minors or appear to be minors. My question is, there's no one else? In this statement, they admit that Epstein harmed over 1,000 victims. So you got 1,000 people, either some form of evidence that he harmed. Nobody else was involved. Epstein's around the most powerful people on the planet. 1,000 victims. No, nobody else. There's images and videos. Apparently, that's what they say. Nobody else is on camera, right? Because otherwise, that would mean that the FBI director went on Joe Rogan and told a lie, told a little fib.
If there was a video of some guy or gal committing felonies on an island and I'm in charge, don't you think you'd see it?
But he says he's going to get the evidence out. So how do you square this, right? There's 1,000. Was Epstein just filming himself the whole time for did he put it in the evidence box? I mean, that's the ridiculous thing about this. Why would you film yourself committing these acts? That's where the whole blackmail angle came from. Was there's all these videos for what, right? And I'm sure those people, these powerful people, did not consent to being recorded. So what else was this being used for? It's just pretty amazing. This whole statement seems to absolve any third parties, saying that they really have nothing else that they can bring that would expose third parties to allegations of illegal wrongdoing. Saying later, this systemic review revealed no incriminating client list. Now, here's where I gotta say, yeah, what, you didn't find the little notebook that had the every guy that did something wrong on it? Yeah, obviously that's probably not going to exist, right? But if you have videos and somebody appears in the video doing something bad, it's not a client list, but that's a client, right? So I just find it so hard to believe. I just don't believe. I'm going to be honest. I do not believe that you had so many videos, apparently enough to catalog over 1,000 victims, and not a single other person other than Epstein appeared on any of them, right? He's friends with all these famous people. He got rich, and nobody knows how he got rich. People suspect that it was some form of blackmail, but the FBI seems to basically say this is a conspiracy theory. They say perpetuating unfounded theories about Epstein serves neither of those ends of combating child exploitation and bringing justice to victims. You know, I actually agree with that. I do think we have to be careful not to jump to, conspiracy theories. The problem is when you release contradictory evidence, it makes people think that you're hiding stuff. That is not being helped in this release. I don't know if they're saying, oh, we're being so transparent here. Seems like the first big release was a nothing burger. Then they said they had, reviewing all these videos. Then they say, if we have videos of people committing crimes, we tell you about those. And then they say we have thousands of videos, but we're not going to show you them because there's nothing to see. There's nobody on there important. I mean, it's just unbelievable. quote, we did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. In other words, there's nothing we found that would be useful for a future investigation. That's what I find so interesting. Like,
oh, that is a good point, Coffee. They were like, oh yeah, there's no one in there, but even if there was anybody in there, there wouldn't be anything to charge them with.
I get if you don't want to accuse someone in a press release of something that you haven't accused someone of, like with criminal charges, right? I get it. That's kind of the Department of Justice's way. Even if they have a file on somebody, but they're not going to charge them, they redact their names usually. But in this case, they're kind of saying, we didn't find anything that we would, I mean, it's such a strongly worded statement. That's what's weird about it. Why wouldn't you just be vague if you had these pending cases, right? I find it so weird that the people in the FBI right now have come in with such a mission to, on the one hand, say, hey, we're going to be totally transparent. And then, oh, well, we're not going to show you that. We're not going to show you that. We don't want to re-victimize anyone. Okay, that's fine. But then
I want to know what the comments say. 1,000 victims, 0 perpetrators. Diddy gets off and the Epstein file list evaporates. Shocker. Okay, guys, can you take a look now? We're destroying all of the evidence. Oh wait, sorry, right there. Okay, guys, you can take it now. We're just destroying all of the evidence. Remember, this man is not anti-Semitic, not crazy, not a degenerate, not depressed, and not suicidal. Talking about CoffeeZilla in case he gets got. There's a client list. We're reviewing the client list. We're releasing the client list. There is no client list. We investigated ourselves and found no faults. The client list killed itself. Remember how Elon Musk said Trump was on the list? I feel like there's a noticeable lack of defamation lawsuit towards him. Oh, that's a damn good point, buddy. Yes, we have a human trafficker, but he didn't traffic people to anyone. There is no justice when the criminals run the system. Andor said it. They have no shame, do they? They don't even bother to lie badly anymore. I suppose that's the final human. The government really tried to hit us with are not the files you're looking for hypnosis. My dog ate the client list. When the rich are involved, no one guilty. Crime is legal, especially if our rich boss is involved. The downfall of American Republic is crazy. And the clients are still walking around today unscathed while people are in prison. What a horrible world we live in. Ghislaine Maxwell, the first woman in the world's history to go to prison, trafficking, no one. Amazing. We were going to be so transparent that in fact you won't see anything at all. Anything. They can hurt the children in worse ways. They can hurt children in the worst ways possible and nothing happens to them. Our government protects predators. What about the victims? Those poor children. Some of these might be AI, but some. Anyway. So that brings us. No. That's the.
We've got passion, we've got determination.
Mag is
Like, if we
getting
set our
upset.
sights on something, you better believe
As
it's
are a
happening.
lot of people.
We always feel like
And accused like them of being on the Epstein files, like that's a lot of the jokes and comments that were being thrown around election time, like, oh, the Clintons are on the Epstein files, which they might be. And then it was like, oh, like Barack's in the Epstein files, which they might be, but how are you going to throw around those accusations and not see what's in front of you right?
Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. Donald Trump's administration is facing a full rebellion from the MAGA faithful, the most diehard, the people that spend all day online talking about Donald Trump. Some of the president's most strident supporters are furious.
Oh, for anybody listening who wasn't here earlier, so True Social, True Social doesn't let you look at the posts anymore without an account. Yep. You to join. You must sign up for True Social. You can account profiles. Can't see Trump's tweets anymore unless you have an account.
Curious at his Department of Justice after concluded there would be no further disclosures of Jeffrey Epstein related documents, and that basically everyone should just drop it and move on. This comes after his Attorney General Pam Bondi basically spent months hyping some sort of big reveal from the Department of Justice. Epstein, of course, the disgraced New York financier who died in federal custody back in 2019 while facing child sex trafficking charges related to what prosecutors says was a years-long scheme to abuse young women. A new memo from the DOJ reiterates the department's position that Epstein was not murdered, noting, quote, after a thorough investigation, FBI investigators concluded that Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide in his cell. They even released nearly 11 hours of security camera footage from outside Epstein's cell that night of his death. Although that will likely do little to quell the ongoing conspiracies, especially considering the video is missing an entire minute. The DOJ...
And there's a huge ass jump cut there. The fuck? That's only gonna make things worse.
attributes that to a long-standing glitch with the system. Despite all the Epstein didn't kill himself memes and the never-ending, increasingly Baroque conspiracies, the MAGA faithful are really mad about this part of the memo.
Good.
Quoting it here. This systematic review revealed no incriminating client list. There was no credible evidence found that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals as part of his actions. We did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. Now, that claim that there was no shadowy client list, ostensibly containing evidence that Epstein was secretly blackmailing political and financial and Hollywood elites, certainly seemed to contradict what Trump's own attorney general said on television back in February.
One of the things that you alluded to, and this is something Donald Trump has talked about, the DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by...
So that was a fucking lie.
President Trump. I'm reviewing that.
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. She did just say that, right? We just heard her correctly? Now her Department of Justice says no such list exists? But again, this wasn't just Pam Bondi misspeaking or speaking ambiguously, one-off remark. I mean, seriously, 4 months, this has been a drumbeat. She's promised some sort of big revelation from the documents. I mean, do you remember this? Back in February, the White House even held this big event with right-wing influencers sharing a bunch of what turned out to be previously reported in the public domain information. They had repackaged into a bunch of fancy binders, which they handed out to people. And so when the DOJ comes back basically yesterday and says, you know what, looked at it and turns out nothing to see here. Well, now that same right-wing media ecosystem is absolutely fuming.
The whole thing that this tape shows he didn't kill himself is like a joke. But worse than that, it's a joke that we all get. Like, they're not fooling anybody. So I feel like we're at a dangerous point now.
So now by coming in and being part of the cover-up, the Trump administration has become part of it. I mean, it's just you cannot see it any other way. So
They lost Alex Jones? Alex Jones would rather choose the conspiracy theory over Trump? That's very interesting. Very interesting. Note that for later.
I just got to the office.
I'm not, like, I don't know anything. But I'm just saying, for a man who's been around since, like, Obama. Or maybe, like, late Bush, early Obama. I find it very interesting that he is choosing the conspiracy theory / the thing he wants justice on over an administration. At least that's how I'm reading this moment. I wonder how this is going to play out later.
Go throw up, actually. And this only happens every few years when something really, really bad happens or something. I mean, I'm physically gonna puke probably right now. My mouth is watering right now. Because I have integrity. And, I just really need the Trump administration to succeed and to save this country, and they're doing so much good. And then for them to do something like this tears my guts out.
Do you see what you've done, Pam Bondi? You have made Alex Jones cry and possibly puke, which he only does a few times a year because of how much integrity he has. In hindsight, though, I don't think that those people should be very surprised. As we have said before, repeatedly, this has been a consistent theme of our reporting here on this program. If you were a single-issue voter in 2024 and hating Jeffrey Epstein and people associated him was your only issue, Donald Trump should not have been the candidate for you. Trump and Epstein were friends. Everyone has seen the photos and the party tapes at Mar-a-Lago where they seem to leer at women. And we remember when Trump famously told New York Magazine, "I've known Jeff for 15 years, terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with. It is even said he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side." One of the women at the center of the Epstein sex trafficking case, Virginia Giuffre, who recently died by suicide, claimed that she was actually recruited as a minor by Epstein's collaborator Ghislaine Maxwell at Mar-a-Lago. And when that collaborator was facing trial for sex trafficking, Donald Trump seemed oddly concerned about her.
Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison, and so a lot of people want to know if she's going to turn in powerful people. And I know you've talked in the past about Prince Andrew, and you've criticized Bill Clinton's behavior. I'm wondering, do you feel that she's going to turn in powerful men? How do you see that working out?
I don't know. I haven't really been following it too much. I just wish her well, frankly. I've met her numerous times over the years, especially since I lived in Palm Beach, and I guess they lived in Palm Beach. But I wish her well, whatever it is. Her friend or boyfriend, Epstein, was either killed or committed suicide in jail. She's now in jail. Yeah, I wish her well. I'd wish you well. I'd wish a lot of people well. Good luck.
Do you remember that? Remember that when Maxwell was being tried for sex trafficking and Donald Trump was asked about her, and his first instinct was to be like, I wish her well. Used to know her back in the day in Palm Beach, saw her all the time. Now think back to the 2024 campaign. Do you ever remember Donald Trump talking about Jeffrey Epstein amid all the crazy nonsense?
Yes, I do. I was just talking about this. Thank you, Chris Hayes. Oh my God. I was literally just talking about this.
Since he said about all kinds of insane internet sewer gutter stuff. I mean, and then there's the JFK stuff and the Hannibal Lecter riffs you would do. He conveniently never brought this case up. And then when he was asked about it, Trump gave this truly remarkable answer.
Americans have lost a lot of trust in institutions, and I think there's been a lot of discussion, especially online and especially with young people. How do we rebuild that trust in institutions? The CIA, the FBI, all those institutions.
You're right.
Some people think that one way to build trust is to declassify things that everyone's talking about. I know you talked earlier about it. I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist. So if you were president, would you declassify, you can answer yes or no to these. Would you declassify the 9/11 files?
Yeah.
Would you declassify JFK files?
Yeah.
Would you,
I did a lot of it.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I guess I would. I think that less so because, you don't know. You don't want to affect people's lives if it's phony stuff in there because there's a lot of phony stuff with that whole world. But I think I would, or at least...
And do you think that would restore trust? Help restore trust?
Yeah, I don't know about Epstein so much as I do the others. Certainly about the way he died.
There's a lot of phony stuff in there. That's interesting.
Interesting to find out what happened there because that was a weird situation and the cameras didn't happen to be working, et cetera, et cetera.
Epstein, I don't know so much. I mean, this became a huge obsession of the kind of online MAGA right. I mean, really, listen to how then podcaster Dan Bongino spoke about this earlier this year before joining the Trump DOJ.
This isn't about Epstein or 9/11 or JFK or RFK. It is, but it isn't. It's about a bigger thing. If you're lying about that, you're lying about everything. Who's on the Epstein tapes, folks? Who's on those tapes? Who's in those black books? Why have they been hiding it?
Good question, Dan Bongino. That was back in February. And here is Dan Bongino, just 2 months later, now installed as Trump's second in command at the FBI.
You know a suicide when you see one, and that's what that was.
He killed himself. You want me to? I've seen the whole file. He killed himself.
Kind of a different vibe. This idea that Donald Trump, of all people, was going to be the one to crack the Epstein case wide open was always a ludicrous notion, a weird bit of projection. And it seems like MAGA world has finally figured that out. And despite all the furor from his base, and it's sizable today, Trump is desperate to talk about anything else.
Your memo and release yesterday on Jeffrey Epstein, it left some lingering mysteries. Can you say why there was a minute missing from the jailhouse tape on the night of the
Yeah, sure. If I
Pam, could I just interrupt for 1 second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this.
This sounds like somebody who totally is in the Epstein files.
We're having some of the greatest success and also
I didn't steal the cookie from the cookie jar. How could you even? There's so much of it. There's pie over there on the shelf. There's bread over there. How could we be talking about cookies from the cookie jar at a time like this? I'm sorry. Sounds like I gotta get my Trump down. I don't.
Tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration.
How long is
I knew this morning outrage among the president's own supporters.
I'm gonna get out of here. I said I was gonna get out of here by 8, but I don't want to watch this and then get tied up for how long I yap. So I'm gonna get out of here for the night. I'll be back tomorrow night. I hope everybody has a safe and wonderful evening. And make sure you check Ryan Hall, y'all. And well later. Night. Bye.